930-3491.
Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when and when you're watching, of course. Welcome back to another show of Biz Talks. We've got an amazing lineup of guests that are going to be joining us today. We're going to answer a lot of questions that our viewers have asked throughout the week. They're having a great time being on the show and answering all of those questions for you. And we want to welcome back someone who is very well versed in her field. I actually call her an expert in her field, and we're happy to have her back. Ms. Nora, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Rick. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to have you as always. We always have a great conversation that leads to other questions, which our viewers are always asking different things, and there are some folks out there that are interested in more knowledge from you and want to know a little bit more about you. So we're going to dive into some of those questions now. Hope you're okay and you're ready to go with them. Are you okay?
Yes, I am. I'm ready.
All right, let's go. So one of the first questions that came up, you've been through quite a journey in the world of finance, right? So your extensive expertise, especially in the nonprofit section, because I know you do a lot of nonprofits. What are some of the key strategies that you've implemented that's driven success in those organizations?
So with nonprofits, like a lot of nonprofits suffers from lack of funding. They don't have enough funding usually. So they try to go in a different direction. Once people get their exempt status, they try to actually go for grants. And usually that does not work. So what I implemented is my impact method, which is very unique. Actually, people, when they learn it, they break the barrier of non-funding. So it is actually starts with identifying your ideal donors. So once people identify their ideal donors, and they know how to ask for donations from them, how to tell their story, the organization's story, where to find their ideal donors, they break that barrier of not getting enough finances. That actually can be the reason for making them in compliance. Because a lot of nonprofits think they do not have to pay for services or for their staff, or they cannot generate money. But the thing is, no, you are a business. You just have a different view of the business, like a different tax code, basically. So you are tax exempt. So when I give you money, you are taking this money as donations, and I get the benefit of taking a tax break because of that. And this is what people always misunderstand. Like they think, oh, okay, I am a nonprofit, I'm not a business. What I'm trying to do with my impact methods and with my way of implementing the strategies for nonprofits is actually revolutionize the way of the people who are nonprofit leaders to think about nonprofits. It's really, you have to go to build the capacity by identifying your ideal donors, get ready, stand on your feet before you even go and apply for grants, because by going directly to grants, you are actually wasting money and resources, and that's usually break people financials. A lot of nonprofit leaders are actually drained financially, emotionally, and a lot of them actually, they give up their nonprofit at the end of the day. Because when you look at the IRS website, there is a huge section that identifies nonprofit and charity organization that is bigger than personal, bigger than business. It's huge. And if you go, for example, like I took 2 exams, one for the being a CPA and one for being an enrolled agent. And none of these address the nonprofit section very well. So that's why a lot of tax professionals and accountants, they do not have enough knowledge and they don't actually like to take nonprofit clients. So a lot of nonprofits end up like actually relying on volunteers who knows nothing about nonprofits, know nothing about how they should get funding. So what I'm trying to do with Impact Method, really identify like a simple way for nonprofits to go through and get those donations and account for them correctly. Because also when we report their tax returns, which is due in a couple of days, actually there is a way like we have to identify those. We have to implement these questions and the way it is written in the 990, not like any other um, business.
Absolutely. So I think that you actually hit the nail in the head because there is a lot of misconception that when a nonprofit is started, they think that, okay, we're a nonprofit, we're not your traditional business. But the reality is that you operate slightly different, but you are still considered a business. And a lot of the finances aspect of the nonprofit still function very much typical to a traditional business. So thank you for diving into that. We certainly do appreciate it. One of our other questions that came up, yet, it's a very popular topic as well. Managing finances can definitely be a maze sometimes, especially in business, right? How do you blend your expertise in business information technology with your accounting background, to be able to provide innovative solutions for your clients over at Nora's Books? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, business information technology was like my master program I went for like through computer science. Actually, that is the same exact program. You could go through computer science school or through actually business school. I went the easier route, the computer science route, but the same exact program. That program actually teach you a lot of things like as an end user, how to do project management, how to do uh, managerial accounting, how to make sure you develop and programs or how to understand program and technology that can be easily used with by the end users. So going through that knowledge, actually, it's really impacted the way I look at numbers, the way I look at what software we should choose for each thing, because you understand the end user and you understand the back end of it. So you get to learn actually how to develop a website. The time I went to the program, I had to actually develop a website which was like very beneficial for me to understand the back end of not only from the end user perspective, but also from the developer perspective, and also how to manage a project. And the project management can be like really important for anything that we do, especially now, like with clients portals, with accounting portal, with anything that we, and also project management tool, the back end knowledge of that like really helped with having being a business owner and also playing with numbers and getting the information transferred. So the other side, the client, the business owner, the nonprofit leader understand what we're talking about. So it helps like communicating better actually at the end of the day.
I think hiring an expert that looks at numbers differently, that was my key takeaway from what you just mentioned. So you were trained to look at numbers from a different point of view in order to make a successful business and or a nonprofit work effectively, right? So that is
Yes.
amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Nora, can I assume that it's safe to say that you've worn many hats from the corporate America to funding your own firm? Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So with that being said, what inspired you to take, this leap of faith in starring Nora's Books, and what do you believe sets it apart from the competitive world in the world of tax?
Mhm. So actually, I started my firm back in 2021, which is like right after COVID, because before that, like I worked like over 20 years between nonprofits and corporates. And that mix helped me actually I brought a lot of innovative stuff to nonprofits words, help them like manage their organization in more not formal but professional way, because a lot of nonprofit like try to, because they don't have enough resources, and they don't, sometimes they don't understand they can actually implement this, they can invest, so they don't have that resources for. So when I started with nonprofits, I was able to bring a lot of this knowledge with me to help nonprofits, and then I went back to corporate world again, and then at the end of the day, like during COVID, I decided, so okay, I don't want to go back to the workforce. I want to start my own firm, because this is actually a dream I wanted to have before, like years ago. But because of what happened in Syria, I'm originally from Syria. What happened in Syria in 2011, that distracted me actually from having my own firm. So that kind of slept away. And then when um, I found myself after COVID, like I have to find a job. I'm like, okay, now let me just make my dream come true and let me start. And actually, when I started, I wasn't planning to focus in nonprofit, but I found actually a huge need in that field, because a lot of nonprofits, not nonprofit, a lot of tax professionals and accountants, they don't want to even deal with it. I have actually a few courses on my website for tax professionals to teach them how to help nonprofits. And a lot of them, they don't want to even touch it. Like, oh no, we will just refer these people to you. A lot of people don't want to touch it. So I found myself into those places like where people do not want to step into the knowledge of that, like nonprofit, foreign tax returns, FBAR reporting, some like foreign account reporting, all of these things that people do not pay attention to. I found myself very interested in it, and I want to cover that gap. And what actually we still do like everything like of taxes and accounting for business owners, S corp, and LLCs, everyone. But what really differentiates us, one of the main core value of Nora's books is education. And so that's like we want make sure like our clients, even before they become clients, to be very educated and well versed about the topics that we are going to help them with, like whether it's their tax returns, whether it's like their bookkeeping, anything that they have, or they have a problem with the IRS, no matter what it is, we want to make sure we educate them well and help them make the best decision that suits their situation. So that's one thing. The other thing is we want to be part of your win. We want to be your partner. So we help you actually um, move away from obstacles, like challenge, like pass those challenges to make sure your business or nonprofit actually stand back on their feet if in case you face any problem. So this is how we deal with our clients, like as our partner, and we make sure like they are we spend a lot of time actually making sure every client is a unique story, and we want to make sure we deliver the service that's really unique to them and that can benefit them by clarifying everything and making sure the client has a clear vision of what we have so they can make the right decision.
Absolutely. We definitely do want to hire an expert that can help us in all realms. And that's the reason why we continue to have these conversations with you, Nora, because you bring an extensive amount of expertise. So we certainly do appreciate you being on the show once again. This has been an amazing conversation. We're going to go into a quick commercial break. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Hey folks, welcome back to Biz Talks. My name is Rick Gutierrez. I am your host and your business advocate. Every single week we've got amazing people that we are interviewing, business professionals with tons of experience, and we'd like to welcome back our next guest, Mr. John Mitchell with Cantrell & Cantrell, an associate attorney with extensive experience in federal tax practice. Mr. John, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, Rick, thanks very much for having me back on, man. I always appreciate it. I really enjoy getting to chat with you, and I really, really appreciate all the audience out there tuning in. And I hope that, I always try and bring my A game, and so I hope and expect, all my fingers are crossed that this time is going to be absolutely no exception to that.
Absolutely. Well, these shows are driven by our audience, and our audience are the ones that are tuning in and having a great time listening to all of the topics that we have. And they're the ones that drive all of the questions. So we've got an amazing conversation with us today. So being with that said, John, the last 30 years of experience in the federal tax practice, you must have seen it all by now, I'm pretty sure. But I'm sure there's always new things that you are seeing. What are some of the common challenges that some of the clients are facing and dealing with, the IRS and collections and things like that? And how do you navigate them to achieve the best outcomes?
I'll tell you what, my son one time, he was my oldest son, he's 30 and he's, joking around. He says, oh yeah, the exciting world of tax. And I spend, you don't even know, right? Like taxes is kind of like the backstage pass into folks' lives, right? And you will see, you wake up in a new world every day, right? And so, yeah, I do a lot, as you kind of intimated there, I do a lot of work, mostly focused nowadays. I don't do a lot of tax return preparation. People think I'm sitting there like, H&R Block, right? Like I'm sitting there sharpening up my pencils, getting ready to, do people's tax returns. I do very, very little of that, actually. I handle mostly IRS problems, right? And when you got problems with the IRS, believe you me, that is, stress. It's trouble. I've seen marriages break up. I've seen, not me personally, but I know an attorney whose client, succumbed to the stress of being under IRS investigation and unfortunately, took their own life. And so these are kind of high stakes things that people are dealing with when you're dealing with tax problems. It really, really affects people's lives, right? And so you mentioned, exams and collections, two, very big parts of the IRS, but they're two big parts, but they're separate things, right? So exams, IRS exam is when you are under some kind of an audit, right? And basically, without getting too technical, when you're under audit, basically what they want you to do is justify the numbers on your tax return, right? So you filed a tax return, they came back and said, hey, now, show me the proof, right? The difference with collections is collections folks, those are, so in examinations, you're talking about revenue agents. So people kind of, colloquially talk about IRS agents. Well, there's actually revenue agents and revenue officers. Revenue officers are a little bit different. They work on the collection side, and according to them, that's when the taxes have already been calculated and you owe X amount of money. Now they're trying to get you to pay it, right? So that's the difference between the two different sides. On the collection side, I see one of the biggest hang-ups that I see is people not keeping good books and records, especially if you've got a business. So if you're going to write off something like even something basic like your rent, like you got a business and let's say your rent's $1,000 a month, so you whip out and you are going to do your taxes, right? And or somebody's going to do it for you. They write in on the line, whatever line it is, line 7 or whatever the heck it is. Oh yeah, this is my rental expense, right? And they $12,000, right? Okay, so if the IRS ever came back and asked about that, how would you go about justifying it? And I can just tell you this, in when I do my taxes, right? When I do my taxes, every year I sit down and I have a 3-ring binder, right? I print out all of my, rental payments. I print out all of my bank statements. I print out, so there's a tab. And if on line 1 I have a number that says $8,000, tab 1 says, and it's got all of the backup documentation to prove that, right? Now, I know I don't expect everybody out there to be, that exact with it. I know I'm a tax nerd, and so that's me, right? But, if the IRS were to ever come back and ask me for, back up the numbers on my tax return, well, all I would have to do really is take that 3-ring binder for 2023, let's say, run it through the copy machine and send it to the IRS because in the moment that I did my tax return, I had all of that right there in my hands, right? So, there's a big thing. People don't realize this, right? But, when you take a deduction or claim a credit on a tax return, that is on you. They would call it, legally, we call it the burden of proof, right? And there's a burden of proof, which includes a burden of production, which means show me the paperwork that backs it up, right? So that's one of the big things that I would recommend. At the very least, what you can do is keep, very least keep like a shoebox or a big, big manila envelope or something with all your stuff in it for that tax year, right? And that's going to go a long ways. Just hang on to that, and that's going to be helpful when examination time comes around, right? The other side of it is collections. And so one of the things that I see in the collection realm is any deal I make with the IRS, right? People come to me, John, I want to pay pennies on the dollar, right? Okay, so fine. So you want to make the IRS an offer, and those do exist. And so now, how do you go about that? Well, one of the things to always remember when you're trying to make a deal with the IRS, be it an offer and compromise, be it that you want to be non-collectible, or perhaps maybe it is that you just need a payment plan, right? You owe a few $1,000s, life happened, things came up, and now you want to pay $500 a month for the next 10 months, right? Something like that. So if you're going to do that, the IRS wants you to be in current compliance. And what does current compliance mean? That means that all your tax returns up through today are filed, right, or on extension. So everything's filed, and any current payments have been made, right? So let's say you came to me right now, you got 3 or 4 years worth of tax debts. The first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, Rick, I'm going to look at your tax return for 2023, and I'm going to say, okay, you owed $10,000. Therefore, you need to be paying $2,500 a month in every 3 months, quarterly payments to the IRS. That's going to be what they call being in payment compliance. And so you can't just go to the IRS and say, I want a special deal. I want, whatever, a discount, or I want to pay in payment plans, whatever. There are requirements to that. And one of the big requirements that I see that trips people up all the time is not staying in current compliance. I've even had it be so that we calculate and we say, okay, I'm going to settle this debt for you, this $50,000 debt. I'm going to settle it for $2,500, right? And we get all the paperwork, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. We send it out to the IRS, and I feel really good and confident that this is going to work. And then 6 months from now, 8, 10 months from now, IRS sends me a letter. Boom, the whole process is terminated. go back to, go back to the beginning, start all over because the person didn't file something or didn't pay something they should have paid. They're not currently compliant. Boom, you're out of the game, right? So that's one of the biggest problems I see on the collection side. So just to recap, examinations, books and records are a big thing. Collections, current compliance is a big thing. And those are, I guess, probably two of the main hang-ups that I see from folks when we're dealing with the IRS.
I think one of the things that on the examinations side of it, one of the things that stood out to me is the 3-ring binder that you keep everything nice and organized. Imagining a world where everyone was to keep a 3-ring binder and keep everything organized to be able to send it in when needed. That would be, obviously, if everyone did that, John, you probably wouldn't have a job. But most people are not that organized, and that's the reason why you're here. That's the reason why you bring your expertise to the table, and that's the reason why you do the great work that you do in helping folks in particular situations. So let me dive into another question that came up, and we'll talk about this briefly, John, and that way we can cover it as well, at least a little good bit of it. Cantrell & Cantrell, it's a tax-focused law firm, and you do a lot of other things within the law firm, but mainly tax. So how do you leverage your expertise to provide personalized solutions for your clients? You kind of touched on that on the previous conversation, but let's just dive in a little bit more as to how you leverage your expertise to be able to help those unique solutions for each client.
You said something very important here, Rick, which is unique solutions to every client. So I view kind of what I do as I'm like a tailor, right? So I'm going to take all your measurements and make a suit of clothes that is specifically designed to fit your measurements, right? So that's kind of how I go about, handling tax controversy. I have to take a look at the client, and it's partly from my 30 plus years of experience. And by the way, I'm not even the oldest old timer at the firm. My boss, Mr. Cantrell, is a CPA and a board certified tax attorney and has been licensed for over 50 years now. And so I jokingly always say, when Neil Armstrong said one small step for man, my boss was already working at the IRS. And that's so amazing. It really is a collaborative effort. So if I ever run into a situation and I have some kind of doubt, doesn't happen all that often, but if I have a doubt or I have a I want to bounce something off somebody, right down the hall, I got Mr. Cantrell, and he's not the only one. It's really a group effort. So we got lots of people there at the firm that and we all pitch in and we all help each other out. Now, in my years of experience, I wasn't always a tax guy and certainly wasn't always a lawyer. And so, believe you me, this is going to sound crazy, but I even draw on experiences that I had back when I was a teenager and I was a manager at fast food places, right? So even those kind of little things, it really is true that you are the sum total of all of your life's experiences. And
hey, John.
I've had many, many experiences. I worked for Shell Oil and, in chemistry labs, way back many years ago, back in the late 80s. And so you kind of glean, I at least try to glean a little bit from all of the sum of my life's experiences. And then I try and handle people's cases the way I would want my case to be handled if I were on the other side of the table.
That is awesome.
If I were here hiring a lawyer, I would want him to, for example, be really good with being in touch with me, be communicative, let me know what's the real story, what's going on, things like that. And so I try and apply the golden rule and how I treat others and handle their matter like I would do it if it were my own. What if it was my mom? What if it was my sister? What if it were my brother? Right? Mm-hmm. That's the kind of service that I try to give everybody.
Absolutely. So I appreciate that. Thank you for explaining that a little bit more. We're going to go into a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99, and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
Hey folks, welcome back to Biz Talks. We are having an amazing conversation with John Mitchell, and he's providing an enormous amount of detail as to how Cantrell works and how they focus and how they're able to bring unique solutions to each individual. And so, John, we want to pick up that conversation right where we left off. And one of the other questions that came up, you know, if you're able to, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but to a certain degree, can you give us an example of a particular complex case that you've successfully handled?
Yeah, sure, Rick. Yeah, I can do that because, I mean, I'm not going to obviously divulge any confidential information or name any names or anything, right? But I can talk to you about one of the more complex cases that I've handled since I've been with Cantrell. This was a case where there had been a husband and wife. They were both attorneys in Mexico. They had come to the United States, gotten their green card, later their citizenship, and they managed businesses on both sides of the border. And it was an interlocking bunch of companies, right? So they had maybe a dozen different companies between them. And one of the things that had come about, the marriage turned sour, and then they ran into some IRS troubles. And so that's where I came into the picture, right? There had been, this is such a long story. I'm making it really short for you, but there had been some, issues with abuse and things like that. And one of the things that the IRS was hitting these folks with were called FBAR, so foreign bank account reporting. And one of the ways that we had successfully argued that case was, and we were able to demonstrate this with, witness testimony and police reports and other types of things. And we were able to demonstrate that this lady, we represented the lady, and the husband had his own lawyers who did their thing, whatever they did. But I can talk about from our perspective, we handled the lady. And we were able to argue, and it was true, that she could not properly be expected to file these bank account reports with the government because he had cut off access to all of the books and records. And so that was one of the arguments that we used. And this was a gigantic case. It took us maybe 3.5 years to work our way through all the issues. And we were back up and down through collections and appeals and in the courts. Ended up that he filed bankruptcy, and then she filed an intervention in his bankruptcy proceedings. And actually, I'm licensed in Mexico, and it ended up being that they had about 5 or 6 different cases where they had sued each other in Mexico. And so under the auspices of the bankruptcy court, we did a global settlement which had to be approved by the Mexican courts. And turns out a fun little fact I ended up doing. This was during COVID, and I ended up doing an appearance in a Mexican court. I blew the dust off of that old Mexican license, and made an appearance in Mexican court, the very first Zoom appearance for that judge had ever done, and I was on it. So we made history with that, and we got really good results for this lady, and we ended up we got really favorable results, and the whole thing had started off maybe a 12 or 13 million dollar case when all was said and done, and so that's been one of the more complicated ones that I've worked on.
That's pretty amazing. So having an experienced tax attorney that can do tax law internationally, that is phenomenal. It's like, why would you not call Cantrell and Cantrell and get with John Mitchell is my question that I would have for the audience. I mean, you would be the go-to expert if I needed that advice and needed that representation. So, John, one of the other questions that have also come up is, the world of tax is constantly evolving. Changes are being made all the time. How do you stay updated with all of these changes in tax regulations and laws and all of those things? How do you stay up to date?
Well, I'll tell you this, Rick. Let me just throw out a couple of statistics for you, right? The Internal Revenue Code, Title 26 of United States Code, and the regulations, the Code of Federal Regulations that implement those tax law, is about altogether right at 17,000 pages. So that's a pretty big nut to crack. Now, you don't have to know obviously every section in the code. You don't have to know the whole thing. There's plenty of stuff that I just would have to look up because I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But you got to be kind of at least somewhat familiar with the code and the regulations and the structure. And then there's all the backups, IRS guidance, and then there's the case law that goes along with that. And what I'll tell you is that Congress and the administration, being the Treasury Department and IRS, there are approximately 2 changes to U.S. federal tax law every 3 days. So 3 days, 2 more changes. Another 3 days, 2 more changes. So it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. And so one of the things that you've got to do as a professional, a tax professional particularly, you have to be on top of all of those changes. And I was just writing up something for a bio for a thing I'm working on, and I looked up in the IRS website, and I was able to find my statistics as just me personally. I had 500. Let's see if I can remember it right. 596 hours of continuing education over the past 3.5 years or so. So, I do over 100 hours, 150 hours a year of continuing education. And that is, butts in seats, sitting there just, learning about whatever's new going on in the world of taxes. So that's, I guess that's your answer. I keep track of it, as best I can over the years.
Absolutely. So that's amazing information and way to stay on top of your expertise, right? That's the way that you can help your clients. The clients also want to know, is this public information? How does a client or a prospect know that Cantrell and Cantrell or John Mitchell have been staying up to date with those changes that are made every 3 days? Is that public information, or do you just request that people just have a consultation with you and ask those particular questions in a consultation?
That's a great question. No, as far as I know, there is no general public access to that information. And I've never been asked this, but I would certainly, first of all, on the Cantrell and Cantrell website, my biography is there. So you go and click on my picture and it shows you basically my resume, right? Now, I personally, I've never been asked this, but I wouldn't have a problem sharing with somebody if they wanted to see my record of continuing education. I can certainly go to the IRS and website under my ID, and I'll print that out and give it to you if you want to see it. So that's not not a problem. The other thing is I do a lot of public speaking, and I do a lot of writing, and so one of the ways people could do would be maybe ask for articles or interviews I've done. I've been doing a lot of interviews here on the NowMedia, and so one of the things I do when I get a prospective new client, I'll send them a link to the video, especially if it's a video talking about what they're approaching me about, right? So I'd say, hey, yes, I can help you with your IRS examination situation. By the way, I need X, Y, and Z documents to get started. And in the meantime, here's a link. I was recently interviewed on TV about this. There you go, right? And so they'll be able to click on the link and see that. And I can also show you, I can point to articles I've written and stuff, so even a book about taxes. And so, it's caveat emptor out there. You want to make sure that people are in good standing. So check people out, ask questions. That's I guess the number one thing.
Absolutely. So obviously, John Mitchell is a very public figure. I mean, a lot of information on John Mitchell with Cantrell and Cantrell is something that you can either Google or you can either use LinkedIn to research their background and then approach them by giving them a call and or set an appointment via online, sitting down with John and ask all of those questions there. Because if I'm not mistaken, John, your consultation is free, is it not?
Right. I mean, the initial consultation, and when I say initial consultation, I'm talking about I will hop on the phone with just about anybody for 15 minutes and talk about your situation and see if I can help you or not. Now, don't send me a PDF with 150 pages of documents and say, yeah, John, take a look at all these documents and let's get together and review it all and go over it. It's going to be a couple hours worth of work, right? So if you're going to make me actually review documents and do work and such like that, then there's going to be a cost. But just to talk in general terms, I don't charge for that. So people can certainly give me a call, and I'll be happy to talk to people.
Absolutely. Thank you for being clear and precise on the first 15 minutes. That's invaluable 15 minutes that you can get with John absolutely free to get that initial consultation with John and ask any additional questions, and then officially book a consultation by going and visiting him live. So with that being said, John, thank you so much for being on the show once again. It's always great to have you. Great conversations. We look forward to having you again. Folks, stay right there. We're going to go into a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. This is Biz Talk.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, significantly lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and have seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the CGM Health Hotline now.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Welcome back to Biz Talks, folks. My name is Rick Gutierrez, your host and your business advocate. We've got an amazing guest with us here today, and he's having we're having such a great conversation the last couple of weeks that other questions have come up, and it's a pleasure to welcome back Dr. Verdew. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Rick. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you as always, and I am liking that jacket that you have there, my friend.
Thank you.
But hey, listen, a lot of our viewers are seeing you guys being on TV and talking about the world of AI and things like that, and they just want to learn more. So we're just going to have a conversation with a couple of questions that have come up from our viewers, and they just want to know a little bit more about Harmonic AI and all of the great things that you're doing. So give us a little bit of a glimpse on how it works and how it's reshaping interaction between AI and us humans. This is a big topic right now.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen, and I've been doing this a long time, is that these large language models will hallucinate. And I tell folks on my show, they hallucinate. Sometimes they will act up. Sometimes they'll misbehave. And one of the reasons is it's just because there's so much data out there that every once in a while you may say something that will quote trigger it, right? And so what we have figured out in the last few years is that when you give them a purpose, when you focus them, when you continue to train them and retrain them and retrain them and retrain them, then you can start to balance not only what their actions are, but also their personalities, their behaviors. And so when you interact with them, they are more human-like in what their responses are. And one of the easiest examples is, you've probably been in a meeting with your boss and you're trying to figure out what a competitor or somebody like that is trying to do. And they'll say, well, put yourself in their shoes. What would they do? Well, with AI, we decided that we could just create the shoes and give it so many different perspectives. Then, everybody can ask it questions, they can interact with it, and they can, instead of putting yourself in those shoes, we can put hundreds of thousands of, AI in that same position. And then as you're asking it questions and interacting with it, it's giving you answers just as your competitor would.
Yeah, that's amazing that you say that, because that kind of goes into our next question, which is, what are the potential benefits, that you're seeing for businesses across different sectors? And I think you just hit the nail on the head when you say that you can just continue to teach it, continue to get it to the point to where it's doing what you want it to do and actually creating something for you. I mean, that's pretty big. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And what's fun is we've got a lot of different ways, and we've worked on this. I've been thinking about this for years in ways that as we're training them, we can make them more human-like. We have tried so hard to take the human out of it, and then we ask the AI to make human decisions. That has never made sense to me. And so as we are training these, we are giving them various personalities. We're giving them characteristic traits just as a human would, and we are retraining and training these models so that they have those traits as part of their DNA, as opposed to, oh, we're just doing prompt engineering and telling it to behave that way. Well, no, we're starting from scratch and we're building it so it has those characteristics. Now, the great thing about that is that we can also tell you how much bias is in it. We can tell you how transparent it's supposed to be, because we have the ability to monitor those and see how it's performing. And the important thing about that is well, one, if you're doing product reviews, you generally don't want everybody of the same makeup on those products, because you're not going to get different perspectives. Same thing with anything that you're doing in pretty much any industry, that you have to have perspectives. You have to look at things from different points of view, and we can train a whole bunch of them so that they have different perspectives, they have different points of view, and then it can provide you feedback based on what you have either written, you've asked them to look at, you've asked them to do, those kind of things. And it's a very powerful, analytical tool that we can use to really help, folks accelerate and, really get ahead in their, goals that they're trying to do.
When I first heard about prompt engineering, it blew my mind, because AI is not your typical search engine. We actually have to develop skills to tell AI to behave in the way that we want it to behave and to provide us with the results that we want it to provide. So, Doctor, there's a lot of businesses out there that are just struggling in integrating AI solutions effectively into their business. How do you help these businesses that are struggling to integrate with AI?
Yeah, I try to tell folks, you've really got to start small. The easiest thing to do is come up with your requirements first, because AI is not going to solve every issue, every problem that you have. There's more to AI than just large language models and ChatGPT and Cohere and some of those other ones, right? And so, it can help you get an advantage, but it's not going to allow you to necessarily just, have it take over all aspects of your business. So start small. Let's figure out some requirements. Let's figure out some easy things that we can do. What can we automate? If you're a restaurant owner, for example, you probably hate having to write the schedule. Well, let's have the AI generate what the schedule is. We can have the AI look at your menu, and we can do see what folks are buying more, and that you're selling and that you're making more of a profit on. We can look at supply chain. We can look at all of those things. And normally you probably wouldn't even associate AI with a restaurant, but you really can use it for just about anything that you're trying to do. But start small, pick some little things so you can get some really quick wins. I really stress that the more quick wins you get, the more comfortable you feel using the tool or whatever the tools are, the more likely you are to adopt it, use it more, and really ingrain it in every part of the work that you're trying to do. And when you do that, that's when your relationship with AI really changes, because then you start to understand some of the nuances around that, and then really that's when sky's the limit.
That's amazing. I think the small wins, as you mentioned, taking baby steps and implementing AI into your business is the correct way to go. We learn as AI is also learning at the same time, so you kind of are growing together. But in the world of business, and a very competitive world of business, Doctor, on a scale from 1 to 10, how crucial is it for businesses to start implementing AI?
If you had asked me a few years ago, I would have said probably 5, 6. And now, if you're not doing it, you're already behind. That's what I tell folks, because somebody else is doing it. It doesn't matter the sector you're in, whether it's supply chain, restaurants, grocery stores, whatever. Somebody in that field is using it, and they are, ahead of you. There's no other way to put it. Now, what I would caution you I have two things. I say you can have FOMO and you can have ONO, right? So FOMO is, of course, fear of missing out, and ONO is I was in a rush to deploy it, and oh no, now I'm in deep trouble. So don't panic. Let's take baby steps. Still, do the right thing. You will, eventually catch up, hopefully, with a little bit of help, probably. But if you just start trying to deploy things just so you think that you're gonna catch up, or you're so far behind, then that's when I would usually get a phone call, somebody asking me to come in and help them because they've made some mistakes, and now they've got some bigger problems on their hands.
I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those things to where you definitely don't want to panic, but you definitely do want to start looking into it and start implementing it. Hire an expert to come in and show you how to make AI work for your business. And I can tell you honestly, I do like the FOMO and the ONO. I can tell you in my personal life, I've had more of the ONO type of situation. I've had more of those. But man, one of the other things that we also want to talk about, and we can talk, this next conversation can go on forever, Doctor, but I think it's crucial that folks get a really great understanding. And it has to do in the realm of quantum computing. It's a hot topic right now. And how do you envision it influencing the future of AI?
Well, that's a great question. Probably the audience member that asked that has been, like myself, has been hoping that quantum would break through the last 20 years, right? I mean, we've heard, it's on the cusp, it's on the cusp. But I would like to believe that we are much closer now than we were before. There's some great companies out there doing a lot of fantastic work. IBM's doing a lot of great work. Google, D-Wave. It's different type of quantum computing, but still quantum, I would say. But the important thing about that is really, and folks see this, right? As we try to develop these large language models and we try to get more information, there's only so many zeros and ones that we can push through these chips. Intel and those folks have done an amazing job being able to continue to expand what those capacities are. But, eventually we will hit a point where we just no longer can do that. And what quantum can do is, instead of doing zeros and ones, it can do zeros, ones, and zeros and ones at the same time. So their gates just open up, and the amount of information that you can compute is crazy. There's no other way to put it. It's just crazy that it allows you to solve certain problems that it would take hundreds of years of our fastest supercomputers to be able to solve. And that's what is so exciting about the field of quantum, because when you start to look at the convergence of technologies, whether it's blockchain with AI, quantum with AI, 5G and 6G and some of those other things with AI, and you start to put all those together, you really are giving AI an ability that it can flourish, it can continue to grow, and we can add more capacity to it. With quantum, now you're talking about an ability to calculate things that are really on the neuron level, neurons firing and those kind of things eventually when you get enough qubits in there. But, that's what's going to make our next biggest jump, I think, for us to get to, AGI and some of those other advanced AI capabilities that we have. Now, of course, then too, we still have to be careful, though, because of Terminator, right? We don't want a Terminator situation, and quantum would be one of those things that we could, eventually get there on. So we just have to be careful with that.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a conversation that probably can take many, many episodes, but it's something that we definitely want to talk about and start talking about in the future shows. Doctor, it's an amazing opportunity to have you here and showcase all of your expertise and harmonic AI and all the great things you're doing. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate all of the knowledge. Folks, that is it for this show. We definitely do appreciate everyone tuning in and checking out our guest and listening to all of the advice in terms of business. My name is Rick Gutierrez. I am your host and your business advocate. Until next week, take care of each other.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell